Hi, I'm Cecelia Curtis, and this is the Friendship Tour. Hopefully, you just heard the first episode with my friend, Wendy Alleyne, the one where we're talking about growing apart and back together. This is part two of that conversation, and I want to explain why there is a part two. While editing the first part of the episode, I listened to the conversation over and over and over again. During the editing process, I kept asking myself, what did I miss? What was going on here? And I finally realized that the conversation wasn't really about growing apart and back together. It was about grief and maybe depression. So I called Wendy back a few weeks later, and we're here today to dig a little bit deeper. I could have just deleted the first conversation, never shared it with you. But I want people to hear what grief sometimes sounds like. And I want people to hear how easy it is to miss grief and depression, whether you're 17 years old or even as a fully grown woman. Wendy, you talked in the first part of the episode about pulling away from everyone. You talked about how you weren't as peppy and how you weren't as happy as usual. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you say that it was depression?
Now looking back, yes. While I was going through it, I didn't know what it was. I just know that I wasn't feeling like myself. And I think it was a combination of things that kept happening. And, you're resilient and you just push it off. I just know that there was a lot of events that had occurred. Starting from 10th grade where my grandma passed away. And when she left, it created a hole that I did not know, a void. That how am I going to fill this? And I think, again, because you and I were so close, your family, I was always over your house. I liked staying in your presence. Through 11th grade, I had other friends. Brian was, one of my friends, my husband now. But he was a year ahead of us. So he kind of left and moved on with his life. And I started withdrawing because of loss. And so it first started and stemmed from my grandmother. And then my mom got married the following year. My best friend, one of my best friends, Brian, had now graduated and moved on. And, I had you, but now you were starting to look at moving on. And rightfully so. Like, that is the right thing, you were heading in the right direction. I wasn't ready for that. I don't want things to change. And I afraid, that void will come back. What am I going to do? So I would have ups and downs and wouldn't know how to get back. And so I just kind of retreated. I withdrew from everybody, and not everyone noticed it. And I put on a mask, but sometimes I couldn't put on a mask. So I just withdrew and just would either just not answer the phone. I just wouldn't do a lot of things. And then what I started to fill the void with was people that I knew weren't going anywhere. Right. And some of the things that they were doing weren't the things that I was accustomed to doing. But I just said, okay, if that's what they're doing, hey, let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's do that. I just went with the flow. But it wasn't until I had my first child that I really was able to kind of slow down and reflect on the journey to where I was today, how I was feeling, because I even had postpartum depression with my first child. And my mom and my sister kind of came and swooped in and helped me with that. So that's when I was able to start really dealing with my emotions, and it all stemmed back to high school and the loss of my grandma.
So you feel like it started with grief, the summer between 10th and 11th grade, and continued into, early 20s?
Yeah, I would definitely say it was early 20s. And again, people were constant. It was me that would withdraw. But I never was like, oh, it's Cecilia's fault, right? It was never a feeling of Cecelia left me. Now I'm not going to talk to her anymore, right? It was more of, I wish Cecelia well, right? But I need to figure out what I'm doing here. Like I really didn't want to dig in the beginning. I would say in my younger years, I didn't want my mom telling me what to do, but yet I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. I didn't want to go away to college, but I did. I didn't do well because I didn't want to go. And no one, I just did it because it was supposed to be the right thing to do. That is what everyone was saying I should be doing. And I still hadn't healed from my grandma passing away. And there was a big piece that was removed and I never dealt with it. And it was never an option. Like, and that's like, where I would say nowadays, it's, they ask the question in school if something happens. I know I get notes from the kids, schools that will say, hey, this happened, or a teacher passed, or someone passed, and this is the counseling we have for it. But back then, we didn't have that. I don't remember. I'm not even going to say we didn't, but I just don't remember it being an option. I don't know. But I think I don't remember it being something that we talked about.
It may have been an option on some level, but I don't think these issues were talked about mainstream like they are now, at least not at the younger ages. So yeah, we had a guidance counselor in school, and I guess if you needed help, you could find someone, but it wasn't talked about. And, I was thinking about, not just thinking about it, I was listening to the episode over and over. And you said something that I just didn't know how I felt about it. You said that I would not have understood anyway. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're right. And I feel sad about that. I was 17 years old and I was preparing to go to school, and then I was at school and I was excited, and I don't know, just everything felt fun and new and fresh, and I didn't understand what you were experiencing. I had never lost someone that close to me. Unfortunately, 3 of my grandparents passed away before I was old enough to have any relationship with them. And my 4th grandparent was still alive at that time. I had never lost anyone that close to me. I didn't understand grief from a, firsthand perspective. I certainly didn't understand depression. I didn't understand your new life as a mother. I remember calling you. So this wasn't my freshman year, but it had to be at some point in college. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, just come visit. Just come visit me in Virginia. And you said, I can't just come visit you in Virginia. And I was like, why? And you said, because I'm a mother. I have a whole child and life. Like, I can't just pick up and come for the weekend. And I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. I didn't get it. I thought we were both 20-something, and why couldn't you just pick up and come for the weekend? But as I listened to that and I thought about those moments of me being really peppy, which is kind of the reverse, because usually you were the peppy one and I was the really calm one. But I thought about those moments, and I did. I absolutely missed it. I missed it when we were 17. I missed it when we were 20-something. And honestly, Wendy, I missed it when we had the first conversation about growing apart a few weeks ago. And it wasn't until I was listening over and over and over again that I was like, man, I've missed it again. So that's why I called you to kind of come back and tell you I'm sorry. I wish I could say if I went back, I would do better, but I barely did better this time.
No,
I barely did better this time.
I mean, again, this is something, it was something new for both of us, right? Back then. I've never lost anybody, that close to me. I didn't know how to navigate that. So of course I didn't expect you to know. I didn't even know how to tell you. I was just happy to be around you, right? And be around your mom and your dad, and it just gave me comfort when we would go to church, or, when we would sing together. Are you playing the piano and we're just singing? And, but when I would get by myself, that's when all of the feelings and the emotions would come back. So being around you our senior year was very hard because now everything that you're talking about is what you're doing, like you're planning for the future. And, everyone was really
Yeah.
kind of talking about that. So I just kind of like retreated. And because I didn't know what to say and I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer. Like you said, I was the happy go lucky friend, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not something I was just used to. But, like I said, I don't regret anything. I'm so glad that you stayed in touch, because that meant a lot.
So Wendy, they say hindsight is 2020, but I really just want to know what could I have done differently back then?
Honestly, Sil, I don't think it was anything that you could have done differently. You wouldn't know how to handle or deal with me because I didn't even know how to handle or deal with me, and what I was going
Yeah.
through. And that's one thing too that I think is important, to share is that it's not our friends' responsibilities to be our counselor, right? You are not trained to deal with that. I did have, friends that were local. I had one of my best friends who is still my best friend today, Osha, who did not give up. Like I did the same thing to her, withdrew, wouldn't share or communicate what was going on, but she would show up at my door. She wouldn't allow, she knew something was wrong. I think, with you did the same thing. You would call me, but you couldn't see my face. You couldn't see what I was really going through. I, masked it when I was talking to you. And because you were in Virginia, when I did get to see you, it was more of just catching up. But for having a friend, that was local and that did not give up, would knock on my door, would look at me and tell me you don't look good and something is wrong, and really help me to understand that what I needed to do was communicate. And so I was able to kind of, talk with her and communicate how I was feeling. And she did let me feel like, I wasn't alone and that everyone goes through challenges. And, that's what families and friends are for. And when you're ready, I'm here for you. And she was there every time I came upon a challenge. She helped me look at things a little bit more in different lights. Like, like I miss my grandma. Okay, let's talk about your grandma. Would your grandma be happy with what you're doing? It's like she would put all of those things in perspective. And so, what I learned, now looking back, is the importance of communication, creating that supportive environment, not pushing away from the people that love you the most, and then how important your relationship with God is, right? And when you put your hope in God, He forgives you over and over and over again. He looks at you as perfection, right? Even though, we have been in sin and again, I didn't do anything like reckless, right? But it just was not the path that I was raised to follow. And to get back on that path, I
Right.
had to give myself to God fully. He revealed to me people that I needed to rekindle and connect with. And, through all of that, I would definitely say that it's important to communicate with those that are very important to you. Let them know, and even if they don't know what to do, because Osha wasn't a counselor, but that wasn't her nature. Like she's a police officer now, right? But that is who she was, and so she became that nurturer, that protector that my grandma was for me, and helped me to see my value and help me build my relationship back with God and get to a place where I am today, living my truth, giving myself grace and mercy, learning to love myself, allowed me to love unconditionally, love my children, you know, allow them to be who they are and to guide them with love, because love never fails. And that's, again, with our reconnection, it proved that, right? You didn't know, right? You didn't know
Yeah.
what to do. You didn't understand, or you may have missed it, right? That this was happening, but you knew that you loved me and you kept reaching out. And when I was made whole, I was able to share with you that love because I still had that love for you. And we rekindled, and like everything, I don't even think we ever talked about this because when we rekindled, we just really caught up,
We
right? We
didn't.
just caught up on what we missed.
Yeah, and I hate to keep going back to like the first part of this episode, but part of it I was just sitting there silently because this is the first time I'd heard a lot of this. Like we caught up and we got back to the fun stuff, but we never actually talked about the not so fun stuff. So thank you for coming back again and explaining what happened. And OSHA's name has come up in various social circles. I don't think I've ever actually met her though, which is strange. But OSHA, if you're out there, please know that I love you too. Thank you for loving my Wendy and taking such good care of her. Well, thank you for sharing more of the story. Like I said, I just listened to the conversation and I realized I just really truly missed it. And it just made me it just made me feel sad. It made me feel sad for like 17-year-old Wendy, 18-year-old Wendy, and it made me feel like such a jerk as 17-year-old me and, me now. I ended the last episode saying, Wendy, don't ever do that again. And then I was like, what the heck? Like in reality, you haven't even heard it. You haven't even heard it because it's going to come out the same time this one does. But I ended the episode like, don't ever do that again. We grew apart. I'm so glad we're back together. But I just missed it. It was all wrong. I am sorry. And I'm sorry that you felt like I couldn't be there for you. But in reality, I couldn't be. No, I didn't have the skills. I wasn't equipped to do that. I'm not a counselor and I wasn't one then. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of anything. I'm just reevaluating all that happened. And that's how I feel about it now. That's how I feel. One other thing, on a much lighter note, on a different note, I will have to say you did not give yourself enough credit as a singer in the last episode. You have a fantastic voice, but, and here's the but, you are a soprano and you are a soloist. So as a soprano and soloist, you just never really thought about harmony. You just didn't. You just sang whatever you wanted to sing because that's what people want to hear. People love to hear sopranos sing all the high notes. But for me, as an alto, I have to think about harmony. And I have to find a note that works. And that's why I was giving you notes.
But even when you gave me the notes, I didn't hear it.
Okay. Well, we should probably just end there then. Yeah.
I just want to keep it real, Sil. Like, you always was so encouraging. Like, Wendy, you are a great singer. I was like, and I believed it for a little bit.
Well, I love your soprano voice. I do. I love your soprano voice. And I love you. And thank you for coming back right quick and doing part 2, because it just felt like there was more to the story. And I thank you for talking about it. I'm not a counselor. I'm not any type of mental health professional. If there's anyone listening who feels like you need that, please get the help you need. Your friends love you and care about you, but can only take things so far. So if you feel like you need help, please get the help that you need. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome, sis.
Thank you for being a great friend today and always. I love you.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.